next week, we are likely to see fuel prices fall again as a result of this policy. Next week, it's not actually, Professor has just said it's not that far, it's tomorrow. Tomorrow we will see the decline in prices that we are expecting. I mean, this is remarkable. 2.5 months ago, you were at 23 cedis per liter. Today, you are at 12 cedis and falling. That is a good point. But let me note that, let me point out that the most important aspect of the gold for oil policy is not just the reduction in fuel price, but the most important aspect is the savings in foreign exchange that the Bank of Ghana will make as a result of the lower demand for forex to import oil. That saving is huge. We are currently importing about 50 to 60% of our oil imports under this policy. The goal is to move to 100%, and that will be done this year. We will see this done with, and we'll work with the BDCs to make this happen. But the savings in foreign exchange, when we do this, will be an annual saving of around $4.8 billion US dollars every year when we get this done.
In fact, Mr. Speaker, what we must be careful is this, and people should listen to what is happening. This is a scheme that if we are not careful, we are going to really create a huge debt. Mr. Speaker, there are two players in this game. One, there are two government important institutions. The Bank of Ghana, who is in charge of getting the dollars. Dollars has always been a problem for people who import crude oil. So the Bank of Ghana says, okay, from now on, anybody who wants to import, come and get the dollars. We'll ring fence the dollars. That's the Bank of Ghana. So guess what? The Bank of Ghana now decides that the bulk distribution companies, I'll line you up and I'll give you good rates. So that's the Bank of Ghana. What is happening is that the Bank of Ghana is not only giving them dollars and then they pay you for it. The Bank of Ghana is now becoming the bank to finance the importation of these petroleum products, exposing, giving a risk all the government institutions that have guaranteed crude oil to this country, whether it's GMPC, they've created huge debt. GMPC, they've created huge debt. Now, the Bank of Ghana is guaranteeing. So you tell me, boss, are you saying that boss is the one? Don't talk to him, just boss, where does boss get the money to import the crude oil?
Right, so as you know, we are in trouble as our economy, and we're hoping that the IMF will come to our rescue. That deal is not sealed yet, and there are one or two economies that have faced similar situations where we have seen fuel has become the major situation that grinds economic activity to a halt. This is what this country is trying to avoid at all costs, that we should not find ourselves in a circumstance where we don't have fuel. So people can go and do what they must do and the economy to completely, as it were, collapse. So the government introduced what it called the Gold for Oil program. What is it? We'll get some explanation on that. Bawumia says it is saving the country $4.8 billion US dollars. $4.8 billion US dollars. That's what it will save us each year. The opposition has some concerns that it will rather worsen our current situation, for which we are before the IMF cap in hand. Right, so let's start with this. And Ejapa Mensah, who is the Deputy Minister for the energy area will help us to appreciate, first of all, what this gold for energy policy is. What is it? Good morning.
It's been a while.
That's
I haven't been on your show for quite some time. And let me say good morning to my good friend Eduji and our cherished viewers and listeners. Indeed, as the Vice President explained a couple of days ago, the gold for oil policy is really very simple. We, as a government, realized that owing to especially the Russian-Ukraine invasion, supply chain challenges had evolved that then had led to some countries experiencing shortages of petroleum products. Of course, our own peculiar economic situation where forex availability was becoming a challenge for the Bank of Ghana. Import cover was dwindling, and so then the demand for dollar to import petroleum products then led to a spiraling, in the depreciation of the cedi, especially because the BDC's forward price, by forward price, what it only means is that if they import a commodity today at, say, 10 cedis to the dollar, because there's a window within which they sell and re-import, they want to assure themselves that by the time they sell the commodity, they will be able to generate sufficient enough to buy the same dollar to replace their stocks. And so rather than selling it for 10, they will sell it for 15 Ghana cedis. Bank of Ghana is not meeting the demand, so at a point they were forward pricing the petroleum product at 19 cedis to the dollar just so that they can go and buy the commodity when it runs out. That 19 cedis to the dollar is what you and I pay, which then led to petroleum prices rising as high as 23, 24 cedis per liter. And so it became important for government to rethink how we then find ways of intervening to ensure that, especially because the data showed that out of the two components that determine the petroleum pricing, which is the FOB price and the forex impact, the forex impact had a greater percentage in terms of impact on the price than the FOB increases at the global market. And so if you had a policy that then ensured that the forex was stable or reduced to the levels that are accommodating, then you have an impact on the price. And so we began the conversation called stakeholders to find a way to ensure that we were not going to go through the kinds of challenges that other countries, Nigeria and other places, Kenya, even UK, were encountering with respect to queues at the pumps. And that then led to us evolving this policy of gold for oil, which purely is that Bank of Ghana aggregates gold here in country by buying from small, medium scale operators who ordinarily would have exported, and if all things were working well, would have repatriated the funds into Ghana to support our import bill. But that fund in itself was not coming. And so aggregating the gold here, paying for it in cedi, and externalizing it to then either swap or sell the gold to fund the petroleum imports would help in reducing the demand that ordinarily BDCs would be having for dollar, at least to the extent that the gold for oil program was providing.
Small scale
yes,
gold miners
yes,
get their gold.
Yes.
They would have sold it abroad.
Well, they have people who
Right.
buy the gold and export.
That's correct.
Yes.
Now, the government says, you have a buyer in us. Sell it to the Bank of Ghana.
PMMC.
Great.
Yeah.
So you sell it to the
Precisely.
Bank of Ghana, so to speak.
Yes.
And then you use that gold.
Yes.
Or you sell that gold
Yes.
to get the currency to buy the oil.
Precisely.
The problems that are raised, you are actually, from what you are saying, you are solving two problems.
Yes.
Making sure we have oil, we don't run short of it, and at a price that is reasonable. And two, by doing so, you you are also holding up the cedi, so it doesn't depreciate, and our economy gets even worse.
So really, what causes the cedi depreciation? It's a function of demand and supply. And so if BDCs require $400 million per month, and Bank of Ghana is unable to provide them that $400 million, they will have to look for it elsewhere, and that demand creates the depreciation. And so if you're able to take 200 million, okay, of that demand out of the forex market, then you reduce the pressure. And so that then reduces the demand for the dollar, which then impacts the exchange rate. So
when the vice president really says it's going to save us 4.8 billion,
yes,
that's far in excess of what we are going to the IMF for. We're going to IMF for only 3 billion. What does it mean? How exactly are we making these savings?
So if you listen to the tape that you played, he clearly is saying that the objective is to do 100% of our petroleum product importation through the program, and that we're going to work with the BDCs to ensure that we achieve that. Now, if we achieve the 100% importation through the Gold for Oil program, what it then means is that the demand for dollar of 400 per month by 12, which takes us to 4.8 billion, will not be available anymore.
Okay. Just hold it there briefly. Sure. Dr. Theo Champon, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, good morning, and it's good to see Ejapa and my friend Eduje.
It's raining in Accra this morning, but it's not as cold as where you are. Tell us what you make of this policy. What's good about it? Is there anything bad about it?
I think there's a lot of good, and then there are some challenges as well with the policy. My idea here is to make suggestions that would improve the policy. Like Ejapa was saying, you know, the idea behind the Gold for Oil is not a bad one, right? And the reason, which is actually explained, is we have an oil import bill of $4.7 billion. This was as of last year by the data by the Bank of Ghana shows. This $4.7 billion is about 32% of our total import bill. And it's almost as much as we earn, twice as much as we actually earned from cocoa exports at the same time. And if you translate that number down into monthly, Japan said 400, but yes, it's right. It's just about $390 million every month that you need to go and find to be able to support or bring these petroleum products into the market. So the attempt then by the government is that, okay, we want to do two things. The first thing is we want to reduce the pressure on the foreign reserves of the country. And as we speak currently, we know our reserves have significantly dwindled to under 3 months of import cover. Then the second objective is that they want to, according to them, procure these petroleum products at competitive prices, and thereby any savings that are made because of the forex dimension of it would be passed to consumers at the pump. So overall, the objective is quite clear, and you can see the policy intent behind it. But the devil is always in the details, and that's where, you know, sometimes some of us come in.
Let's poke his eye.
we offer suggestions in terms of how you can then sort of improve it. So currently, on the FX dimension, we know that they have purchased just about 5 tons of gold, right, so far. And gold is now selling for about $60,000 per kilo. So roughly, you would say we've been able to raise about $300 million through these gold purchases from the small-scale miners. And I'm also being told that we've spent about $200 million or so far on these or supporting these purchases. So roughly, about $100 million per month is what has been spent to support the oil, right, purchase. So if you assume that you have a demand of 400 for argument's sake, and then you're now having to save about $100 million out of that, then that's $100 million of forex that otherwise would have been demanded from the Bank of Ghana or from the commercial market, which now is now available to support your reserve. So that's quite a positive in a sense. But where the issue gets a bit tricky is that for a very long time, the BDCs have also said, well, give us a preferential rate and we can still bring these products into the market at a competitive price. That hasn't happened. And then number two, the government also says, like I said, the second policy objective is to bring down price at the pump, right? As we speak currently in the recent pricing window, the gold for oil products that came in are actually selling slightly higher than products that are on the market that the normal BDCs who are not participating in this policy program are doing. And there are a couple of news reports out there. Ijapa can speak to this and correct it if that is not the case. But if you look at the numbers that are out there, petrol, for example, and our gold for oil is selling for about 9.6 cedis a liter. And from the non-gold for oil sources, right, your normal BDCs, they are selling it at about 9.1 cedis per liter. So you go almost like a 50 peso difference. You have similar thing with diesel as well. So when the government now comes and claims that, oh, because of gold for oil, the price has dropped from 20 something to about 10 or so, 13 or so cedis. Clearly, that cannot be the case, because what is driving the price at the local level, which is a function of the international price, and crude oil prices have actually come down a bit. It's a function of the exchange rate. We've seen the exchange rate stabilize relatively. It cannot be the case that all of the drop that we're seeing is fully attributable to this gold for oil policy. So I think a bit of the communication and the PR, which is seeking to make the government look as though it's really because of this policy that prices have dropped, that is not fully the case. And then there are other issues that we need to also, for me, highlight.
Yes,
right?
but is it correct to say that in this attempt, which succeeds in reducing the demand for dollars for oil importation, we are saving $4.8 billion?
We would potentially save 4.8 billion. We are not saving.
Are you reducing your importation, or you are saving something? What is it you are saving?
Okay, so I said that we are spending $4.9 billion, right, every year to import petroleum products into the country. Before or hitherto, what you have to do is the BDCs who bring these things have to go to Bank of Ghana or go to the commercial banks to find the dollar to go and bring these products in, right? Now, what the government is saying is that we can, through either a barter or government-to-government arrangement, more or less use gold to pay for that dollar, or to settle the dollar which you need to bring the petroleum products into the market.
Yes, so you are reducing the demand for dollar for the importation.
Yes, and therefore the demand that you need for your that you would have needed from Bank of Ghana, right? That pressure for dollars don't necessarily exist. But the point is that we are not going to cut 4.8, 4.7 billion like the vice president is saying. It's not happened yet.
Yes.
That is potentially, if you did or roll out all of this policy 100%, then yes, that could happen. But it hasn't happened yet.
Okay, thank you very much. Please hold it there for me.
What the vice president said.
Okay.
That the successful implementation of the program will lead to us saving 4.8 billion. So, yes, no suggestion has been made that in fact that saving has occurred as at the day.
No, but my question is different.
How so?
The fact that you are reducing demand for dollars for the importation, does that mean you are making a savings or you are saving something?
Well, in context, okay, and of course, I mean, if you have a certain demand for dollars and this policy then takes away that demand, clearly Bank of Ghana wouldn't, or the government of Ghana for that matter, would not have to have the need for that dollar to enable you,
so,
run the economy.
Right. Eduji, as I heard your ranking, Jinapo, say, among other things, there are problems with this system. He says, among other things, that this approach to solving the constant fuel price hikes, he says that will rather worsen the government's unsustainable debt burden. The gold being used for the deal ought to be valued in dollar terms as a function of currency, as it is done for oil. He says, quote, "This is a lazy man's approach because gold, first of all, needs to be expressed in its monetary value. You can't just say, take an ounce of gold and give me a barrel of oil as it used to be in the real butter that you are talking about. You must first of all value that gold in dollar terms, and that is the function of currency or money. I'm not a prophet of doom, but from all the documents I have read, we are heading for a debt crisis out of this so-called gold for oil." I don't get his point. Help me. And they are bringing in BDCs that have issues.
I think that, so good morning to you and our viewers and our listeners. I think that the fear of the minority, first of all, has a certain historical basis. You know, our vice president has this penchant of engaging in rash talk. And this rash talk, with the benefit of time, had rather exposed the fact that our vice president is really not thorough when it comes to policy issues. Why am I saying this? If you recall, there was a time our vice president gave an indication why government of Ghana was going to reduce benchmark value. Because for him, revenue from the port is a function of total volume of import times how much you are basically charging by way of duties. And so took the view that if the benchmark value reduces, automatically there will be an increase in volume, which would translate in greater revenue for government. It turned out that that so-called reduction in benchmark value could not be sustained. So government had to do a U-turn and now go back to the very position. Second, we're here in this country when the vice president said he was bringing another novelty here, Sino-Hydro. You recall? And we told him that, listen, Sino-Hydro, from the document and the framework agreement that we have seen, it is not what you are projecting. In fact, it's a loan. So come forth. Let's know how this is going to impact on our overall public debt portfolio. He said NDC members do not read. Today, as we speak, by June, the Sino-Hydro transaction comes to an end. We are yet to process even one ton of bauxite, create an escrow account, use the money to offset whatever the Sino-Hydro. They have disbursed $600 million dollars. So that 600 million, instead of using your bauxite to pay for it, it has now become part of our public debt. Based on this conduct of the vice president, we are expressing a certain fear. First of all, the minority is simply saying that if you go or you get your gold, whether from Anglo Gold, whether from Newmont, or small-scale miners, there's a certain value for an ounce of gold. That particular value is expressed in dollar terms. So it can be $64,000 per an ounce of gold. Let's know how much we are getting. Assuming we're selling that particular gold, we would have gotten this. This amount will buy us so and so metric tons of, what shall I say, either gasoline or oil. Then we know that we're actually dealing with a better arrangement, whereupon we are doing value for value. But in this case, Samson, you recall that as we even speak today, we do not know how much gold have we gotten from these small-scale miners. In any case, Samson, anytime the Bank of Ghana get the proceeds from our gold purchases, they are supposed to come to the Bank of Ghana vault. Granted. So if we have this arrangement where this particular proceeds can come to the Bank of Ghana, why are we using, as it were, intermediaries? Intermediaries. Because as we speak, Bank of Ghana had gone to employ the services of an intermediary, Alpha Stream. And they are using Alpha Stream for all these transactions. We are saying that no, we don't need it. Because we have always been doing purchases of refined petrol. And look at the numbers, senior. Look at the numbers carefully. So far, we have been told that by reason of this gold for oil policy, right, we have had 3 cargoes so far. The first one came in January, 40,000 metric tons. Then somewhere in February, we had 2 additional cargoes, 35,000, 40,000. Total, this gold for oil thing had given us 115,000 metric tons so far. Within 2 months, our total demand or need for refined petroleum product is in the region of 600,000 metric tons. So when the Vice President now comes to say that out of 600,000, the policy that had contributed only 115,000 is the reason for reduction in crude oil, petroleum pricing and others. We certainly have a challenge with that conversation because the available data does not suggest that. And we have made the point that, look, and again, I've read from Nova Reports Online, where Nova Report Online is telling us that the liter cost of a diesel and petrol for the OMC under this gold for oil policy is in the region of 10.10 pesos per liter. That's for diesel. And then 9.60 pesos for petrol. Now look at the OMC selling, which are not under this gold for oil. They are doing diesel for 9.50. They are doing petrol for 9.10 pesos. So you cannot, for all intent and purpose, say that the reason for the reduction in pricing as we see on the various OMC is as a result of this policy issue. You know, when my senior...
So that actually confirms what...
yes, and Nova Report has it. But you see, there's something that my senior says that there are 2 reasons for this gold for oil policy. Stability in the city, because they believe that it will result in relative stability in the city. First of all, let's get this clear.
Which it has.
No. You are not paying, you are not servicing your public debt, the greater part of it. You have defaulted in servicing. You are saving about $200 million that ordinarily you'll be using for the servicing of your public debt from December. You have defaulted.
So
ordinarily.
Help me understand this.
Yes.
What is lost by this process, by this policy?
When we say so we are saying that they claim that this is a novelty. It is not.
No. What is lost by resort to this policy?
No. So I think we need to get a conversation first. When we say what is lost, we need to first know if we are ordinarily, just exporting our gold resources, how much would we have ordinarily made in dollar terms?
What is your estimation? For which, in comparative terms, gives us reason to ditch this policy and return to that?
First of all, this policy is in a very, very, early stages. But the Vice President is speaking on projections that this is going to save us $400 million.
Yes, he's done his work. He's done his maths.
No, $4 billion in terms of
almost $5 billion.
Yes, and we are saying that the reason for the stability, even today, is not attributable to the fact that this, as we speak.
Are you able to say authoritatively, in such conclusive terms, because you don't know how much this is contributing to the stability?
No.
At least you should admit that
but
it will contribute to the stability.
No, what I've just told you.
Because if the demand reduces, the demand for gold, for importation reduces, it's automatic. It should not be a...
There's no data as we speak, because we cannot even tell the relative stability to the city. How much of it is coming from the fact that you are no longer servicing?
No, I thought it was a commonsensical consequence that you don't need to have data to even show.
No, you need
this
data.
Is what will,
you need data.
It will
you see, even from the economics analysis point of view, what you do usually for an economy is to run a certain regression analysis and then determine the fact that you are no longer servicing your public debt or certain aspects of your public debt. How much of that savings ordinarily, because if you are going to service your debt, what you need is that you need to use the dollar to service. Okay. Now you are not doing that. Right. So that's also a saving. So which one exactly is resulting
I'll come
in
to you,
sure.
Mesa. Dr. Theo Champong, what do you make of the argument that is being reinforced by Eduji Temeklo this morning?
Yes, I was just actually going to make a quick remark on that. The issue is not the demand for the products or the oil products. It's going up and it will always go up. The issue is the availability of dollars to actually pay, right, for those products that you are bringing into the country. And under this policy, the proposal then is for somebody to buy your gold and give you dollars and you name it. But I think given the experiences we've had from Ejiri talks about Hydro. We've had a Japan, we've had other deals where you have similar brokerage swap arrangements that are shrouded in some form of secrecy, and there are all sorts of red flags around it. In my view, the easiest thing to do, if really is an issue of dollar availability, then let Bank of Ghana buy the gold from PMMC and by virtue the small mining players, and make those dollars available to the BDCs to support their importation. Thereby, you cut away this whole middleman, this whole, swap arrangement that we're not.
So you agree with Eduji about the middleman thing? That
there are question marks around that. I was going to come to that, but I didn't get the chance. There are question marks around even the role of BOST in all of this arrangement, and the likelihood of them not being able to repay for the products that they have gotten.
The question I asked him, you raised those issues, but the question I asked him, must you answer that? What is lost by this policy, for which we should not be interested in pursuing it?
In my view, what is lost is we've been doing 20 years of market deregulation. By pushing for this 100% arrangement, basically you're trying to cut out even the BDCs that are already within the market and people who support your petroleum products for a very long time now. Through a policy action, you are distorting the market. Number two, creating unfair advantage for certain players within the market. And in my view, this can be simplified. And it can be simplified by taking away the middleman who is doing this brokerage and the swap arrangement, by making sure that the dollars that you are buying or getting from the gold. So you buy the gold from the small scale producers, sell that gold for dollars and make those dollars available to
you have made that point. Okay.
To actually bring the products in. And that is far more simpler arrangement without the undue complexity.
Okay. What final point would you like to make? Because this is where we end. I come to him to end the discussion on this.
So I think on the governance arrangement, I'd like to hear a little bit more from the government of Japan. I mean, what went into the selection of the companies that are involved, right, in doing the brokerage and the streaming. The policy also makes BOS the off-taker of these products, and we know there are serious issues at BOS. There have been improvements under the current BOS, but I am a bit worried that if BOS is not able to actually repay for off-taking these products, then ultimately the money or the debt would end up sitting on the government books, and somebody's got to pay for it.
Okay. You had spoken about unfair competition, but from the narration that Eduji gave us, those who are not part of this policy, who are not benefiting from the BDCs, who are not benefiting from it, appear to have lower prices, correct?
That is so.
They appear to have lower prices than those who are benefiting. So where is the unfairness? They have an opportunity to drive the market.
Yeah, but if you're pushing for a policy that ultimately is, so there are two players. We're talking OMCs and then there's BDCs. These are two separate, players within the
If
chain.
government's own is not profitable, don't sign up. And from what Eduji just gave, and you admit, then government's own is not profitable. So let the private, participants stay where they are. Why should they complain that somebody is being favored against me?
No, but if you're pushing in on the BDC side, if you're pushing in to bring the products into the market using only a particular stream of conduits, then basically you end up taking away the job or the role of the BDCs within the market. That's one. Then we have the people that sell, the retailers, the OMCs, who actually end up going to buy from the BDCs to also sell the products on the market. And one of the claims that the government has made is that the policy is meant to bring down price at the pump. And we're seeing in this current pricing window that the current players who are not even playing or participating in this policy are selling even relatively cheaper or lower than the one that is under the gold for oil. Okay. So there are two slightly separate things.
All right.
But you see,
question is, why are you convoluting what should be a straightforward process and bring in a middleman that we will pay?
No, something I would deal with that. I mean, the suggestion that gold for oil prices are much more expensive than what the other BDCs are doing. So it's not borne out by the facts.
How?
Yes, because I have the data here, the flat average prices per pricing window. Okay, the window of January 21st, when the first commodity came in, okay, PMS by the BDCs was 889.59 per metric ton. Gold for oil was 888.36.
Okay.
Okay, in the week of 2nd February window, PMS under the BDC's regime is 848.35. Under the gold for oil is 829.83. Okay, and then also the 1st March window, PMS under the existing regime is 829.73. Under gold for oil is 785.
Really?
Yes. Okay, 785.65. But you see, it's a margins game. Okay, there is a cap of within which the OMCs and the BDCs operate. Okay, and so if you want to remain competitive, you can reduce your margin, which is really the profit that you make on the product that you sell. So really, if you look at the numbers, it's not borne out by what the. But you see, I sometimes wonder really, and I appreciate the suggestions that is coming from.
Generally, Ghanaians have had concerns about when government wants to procure, government always is looking for a third party to use to procure.
It's not a question
government wants to buy cars. And the question is, your ministry wants to buy cars. Why don't you go to the market and buy? If a private company wanted to buy, it will go into the market to buy. But when government wants to buy, it needs somebody else who will stand in to connect to buy for them, and then they take money. That's the question.
If Bank of Ghana is conducting international operations, It works through third parties. He opens bank accounts, nostro accounts with foreign banks. It comes at a fee. Same way if other banks are dealing with Ghanaian banks or customers in Ghana, they go through intermediaries. So let's not make it sound as if engaging intermediaries in a transaction of this nature.
But in this case, from the explanation by both parties,
but I don't. But
it's an avoidable.
How is it avoidable? How is it avoidable? Bank of Ghana can sell the gold only through a third party. Which market is he going to sell it when he hasn't got a gold sales license, say in UAE, to sell the gold? How is he going to sell it? Okay, and so look, we can ask as to how those brokers were engaged. Legitimate question. And I believe that Bank of Ghana can provide responses as to the due diligence and the procurement processes that they went through to engage that intermediary. Okay, and that's a fair question. But to relate this transaction to what you call a benchmark value and Sino-Hydro and all that, really are red herring.
Someone just sent me a message,
Yeah, sure.
but you have explained that margins game thing. Kweku in Chibosako says that, look, along the Adenta Dodoa Road, Goil today is selling petrol at 12.95 cedis per liter, while Goodness Energy is selling at 12.25 cedis per liter.
Imagine.
Goil is one of the beneficiaries of the gold for oil, and yet is more expensive at the pump.
Exactly. Because that is the final, the ultimate.
You see, we need to look into that, okay? But like I said, every pricing window, NPA releases the guidelines based on which, because it's a deregulated market, people price their commodities within that space.
Senior,
All right.
I think you've given everybody a second.
It's unfortunate we don't have too much time.
I'll give you just a minute.
Because
we'll take a break and
otherwise,
come to the road toll. Yeah.
Okay, so
road toll.
but Senior, just in a minute, there are key issues that we need to look at. The last time I had conversation with my senior, he tried to avoid that conversation by pushing it to Bank of Ghana. First of all, by what procurement method did we procure the services of Alpha Stream? Was it sole source?
He said that's a legitimate question you can ask.
No, but you see, each time he pushes it to the Bank of Ghana. The Ministry of Energy is part of this transaction. So you cannot feign that you do not know the processes by which Alpha Stream were procured. Two, which is more important, if Bank of Ghana today sells our gold, granted, what they'll get will be dollars. That dollar comes into their reserve. If the BDCs need it, all you do is that you sell it to them at a negotiated, reduced price. Then you stabilize. You kill speculation.
You see,
so if you can do this, why do you need?
It's interesting how all of a sudden everybody is talking about Bank of Ghana selling our gold. In fact, you have no gold.
No.
See, wait.
No,
Let's
hold
get
on,
it clear. Wait, please.
Let him answer that.
Please.
You're raising questions.
You have no gold. In June 2021, when Bank of Ghana realized that it was important to diversify its forex portfolio, that they started a gold purchase program. At the time, we had only 8 kilograms of gold. 8. That's what we owned as a country. That translated to 292 ounces. Okay, so if I hear people suggest that when Bank of Ghana is selling our gold, the impression that they want to create out there in the public domain is that some gold is sitting somewhere that somebody is
That's
using.
not correct.
But that's exactly what you think.
But we know that the premise is that this is gold for small scale mining.
Well, that you have licensed to extract and pay you royalties and taxes.
Okay.
The commodity itself belongs to them. But Bank of Ghana, then in its wisdom, is doing a gold purchase program that it is using part to support the importation of petroleum products.
All right.
What's so strange about that?
So because of the interjection, 30 seconds. You see, what my senior is...
For 30 seconds, he will ask for 15 seconds.
Yes, what my
That's
senior,
why he does all the time.
What my senior is failing to acknowledge is the fact that the money PMMC is using to buy the gold from the small-scale miners, whether illegal or whatever, it's actually money coming from the Bank of Ghana. So the Bank of Ghana can in fact purchase...
For value consideration.
Can in fact purchase this gold. So if BOG can purchase the gold and sell more directly, get the reserve,
Okay.
Get the money
Thank
to
you.
show up our reason.
Thank you.
Why
Thank
a
you.
middle person?
Thank you very much. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, as always, we put Ghana first. I've told you we will take a break, and when we return, we will quickly deal with the matter of the road toll that is being reintroduced. But don't go anywhere yet. It hurts, and I'm quoting Manasseh Azure-Awene. He says, it hurts when judges are lumped together and tarred with the same brush of indignity and scorn. I'm not a judge, but it hurts because I have been in courtrooms and observed judges who deliver justice with such diligence, thoroughness, and professionalism that I could feel their pain when the action of a few judges drags all judges in the mud. One such instance is the toxic social media commentary about the judiciary in the wake of the judgment in the defamation case Anas Armiyaw Anas brought against the MP for Asen Central. He concludes, he does an incisive work and then concludes by saying that, I'll read this one to you. He says, the current judgment is a dent on the judiciary. The issues leading to this judgment, such as the defendant unilaterally petitioning and getting a judge of his choice, do not speak well of our justice system. And he displays the letters that were written by the defendant in the matter seeking the Chief Justice and the approval for a particular judge. We'll explain what that is. He says it hurts the reputation of the hard-working and conscionable judges who are dispensing justice. If there is something this judgment has succeeded in doing, then it is the division of opinions between the pro-Anas and critical independent observers on one side and the anti-Anas forces who thinks it serves him right. The judge said, Anas, what Anas does is, quote, investigative terrorism, end quote, and not investigative journalism. Having gone through the judgment, however, one won't be an inch away from the truth to conclude that what happened is judicial terrorism. We'll be right back, dissecting this judgment as far as the law permits.